ENA is bizarre. It's a soup of absolute madness full of all sorts of strange things, and I'm here for it. The inspirations and references behind the series run deep, and the sum of all its chaotic parts amount to something great. So what are the ingredients to ENA that make it so captivating? What are the references, pop culture callouts, and Easter eggs that lend to its charm? Well, in this video, we're going to do a deep dive. And what's interesting is these older influences might even explain things in the show, like how ENA should be trapped in the Great Runas for 10,000 years, specifically. So let's take a look behind the curtain, under the hood, through the code, and back in time to the 1980s and 90s. ENA has a very specific visual style, empty yet whimsical and colorful, very much like the design sensibilities and limitations of that era. And, like I mentioned, peppered into the show are a ton of references to pop culture from that time, which I'll get to in a moment. But first, we need to feast our eyes on the penultimate masterpiece of 3D animation from 1990, The Mind's Eye. This is a collection of cutting-edge 3D animations from various artists and studios cut together to a synthy soundtrack that absolutely bops. Not only is this something drunk ENA would probably, chill out to, but it's a perfect window into the state of 3D animation and art at the time when making graphics like this was new territory. Movement within movement and translation? That's honestly pretty unhinged. These shapes are literally primitive primitives, shapes that are at home in ENA's world. There are vast open plains with some distant low-poly geometry for hinting at mountains, something else we see in ENA. Anything organic that moves kinda moves constrained, almost robotic. Some animations lean into this. These dinosaurs are shiny metallic dino bots. And in spite of the limitations, we can still emote with this randy bird, Stanley, and his lady love, a fish named Stella, as they break the ice between their worlds. Aww. There's also strange and unusual creations. Like, what in the hot abyss is this metal fish nutcracker monstrosity? I love it. Can't get enough of it. Oh, this might be too many. And speaking of too many, there are some specific visuals that I want to talk about in The Mind's Eye. First up is the mannequins. Aside from this specifically lively running statue and this hot mama, most of the humanoid figures in The Mind's Eye are mannequins or simple forms adjacent to that. ENA has a plethora of mannequins, which more and more seem to represent uninhabited or unloaded bodies or characters. Maybe it's their base state, as Mooney has a mannequin limb and ENA, who has maybe unknowingly attempted to reach Runas multiple times by now, may have her previous bodies floating in the digital tunnel. They flicker between her own and a blue mannequin state as she passes them by. As is said in the code above the next door, forget your past, and past attempts indeed. But of course, then she enters the labyrinthine cliffs of the Mannequin Expanse setting, with frustrated mannequins every which way you look. Endless. There is a scene in The Mind's Eye where thousands upon thousands of this same faceless humanoid mannequin mindlessly cycle atop their own labyrinthine cliff, high above the world. It's an endless maze, frustrating too. It feels like a trap, and I can't help but feel the kinship between these two scenes. Other fun visual similarities include this precious golden glass container amid a smattering of cubes. It feels very ENA Hourglass, sans doggo of course. Random desert hands from ENA? Check. Only here, they're surrounded by the power of electricity. Rockin'. This startling jack-in-the-box boings out at you like an ENA NPC. This little robot plugs into a wall like the cassette tape plugs into the auctioneer. White birds in a blue sky, white birds in The Mind's Eye. Abstract ballet dancers make an appearance in that older animation, as well as in the Dream Barbecue trailer. This stone sculpture feels like the community gatekeeper in ENA. Well, any stone bust of that era would. The futuristic neoclassical style is pretty typical of the time, makes things feel science-y and high-tech elevated, you know? This synthy neoclassical style is present in The Mind's Eye, but is also the style of the Runas room with the Holy Code pool. Columns for the win! Fans have also pointed out that this room references the Office 95's Hall of Tortured Souls Easter egg. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give an honorary mention to the DK/eyewitness animation that just went so hard. It's eye always watching you at the end, just like Mooney's room's eye. But from specific camera movements to the generally empty, uncanny low-poly worlds to art in colorful primitive shapes, it's easy to see the early 3D animation influence on ENA. No matter how lively the animation or colors, there is still a nearly empty feeling to these segments, a cool detachment that can be felt in ENA. Back then, it might have been the medium itself, but in ENA, it's a design choice, and it works. Let's talk about art and style specifically now. There's an art museum short in the mind's eye, which features some artwork that would feel very at home in ENA. The faces in this painting look like the ones Ulysses emotes with sometimes, and this sculpture particularly feels like one we encounter a few times in Extinction Day's rooms. Those are also very reminiscent of some real-life sculptures of Romero Brito, a contemporary artist who brings colors to life in a fascinating stained glass way, in sculptures to prints and beyond. It's cool to see that style in ENA's world and character design. This design and function of the character were also influenced by Pablo Picasso's painting Girl Before a Mirror, and it's easy to see why. The split face, bold lines, and bright colors, of course, but also the different personalities staring into the mirror and being reflected by it. ENA has many personalities and forms as well, part of what makes the character so intriguing. The way characters move when being chatted up feels very much like a video game. Not only how they are lower res or lower level of detail looking before being approached, but also when they move, it feels very much like some Philips CDI games animations. Specifically, the Zelda games. They've got constant motion of some sort always going on, interesting perspectives, and also slightly exaggerated and fluid features. They are all hypnotic and more than a little unsettling, just like most of ENA's interactions and even her own animations while talking. And to, link the specific animation style more closely to ENA, in the Dream BBQ game trailer, there's a certain wizard whose whole character design and animation feels like they walked out of time from those old games. And speaking of character animation and motions, this series includes a lot of Easter eggs in this way. The fan community has been very astute in translating codes like 10,000 years and forget your past, and pointing visuals out. Like Osamu Sato's moves from the music video The World Is Round, but there is more to some of these than meets the eye. Released in 1981, the Talking Heads' Once in a Lifetime music video has some pretty quirky and iconic dance moves, which are noted to be featured in a few ENA episodes. These are a pretty overt homage to the song, which was also co-written and produced by Brian Eno. Yep, are you catching the similarity between ENO and ENA? Anyway, Eno is known for his experimental music, especially his generative music, which is music that slowly unfolds in almost infinite non-repeating combinations of sound. Specifically, Eno calculated that it would take almost 10,000 years to hear the entire possibilities of one individual piece, which is then not how long until the next Runas event and how long ENA is trapped in that place. According to Ulysses' subtitles translation, that's a lot. Imagine listening to one song for that entire time. Another music video for your consideration, the intro to the Bugles music video, Video Killed the Radio Star, where there's a white circle moon in a black sky, and the Power of Potluck's intro with the white and black circles before ENA rings the doorbell. This song is iconic for many reasons, and was also MTV's first music video broadcast, also in 1981. Given the inclusion of the Talking Heads dance moves and potentially other music videos, I can't help but believe we are gonna get rickrolled here at some point, if we haven't been already. In 1992, Disney's Aladdin had some then newfangled 3D animation in it as well. The Cave of Wonders was a giant cat masterpiece and marvel at the time. ENA has a few versions of this feline maw structure. The cat portal doorways ENA passes through after the mannequin expands. And then in the desert scene itself, there's a gigantic statuesque cat head in the distance as well. The way the camera moves through the backroomsy corridors in Extinction Party also has some older roots. Enter into the Microsoft Maze screensaver and its dizzyingly hypnotic camera movements. This screensaver even includes a strange grayish N-gon shape that, when touched, flips the world upside down. This shape is very much like Rubik's pre-cube shape in Extinction Party, a pretty neat inclusion. His cube form, of course, coming from the Rubik's Cube puzzle game invented in 1974. Also note that these screensaver maze walls are all brick. Many of the rooms in Extinction Party are also brick or brick outlined. And of course, the community gatekeeper seems to be a mixture of classic stone bust and 4 legs, each of which is one of the colors from the Microsoft Windows logo. And while we're on Microsoft screensavers, I gotta mention the pipes. These snake themselves into complex patterns for hours. And when ENA falls into the pipes environments in the theater, the nostalgia does kick in. In this series, they seem to go on for quite a while, like a screensaver. An honorable mention is this piece from The Mind's Eye. Again, of course. Starting in later episodes of the show, ENA starts to feel like a video game. In terms of style and her movement, we've got an isometric view of her movements after she enters the theater in Potluck. When she's outside the theater, I have to note how much the red outlines of the star-shaped building make it look like a Virtual Boy graphic. Probably one of the most uncomfortable game consoles to play, but I digress. Temptation Stairway has a race to enter the Great Runas, complete with a timer, mannequin obstacles, and even what feels like climbing the shadow of the Colossus itself. Everything! And that's before we enter. Its thorny roses also reminds me of the roses surrounding Sleeping Beauty's palace in some versions of that fairy tale. Dangerous barbed roses grew around the castle to protect the sleeping princess until 100 years were up, preventing any unwanted visitors until that time. Those bushes were full of bones and body parts of those foolish enough to attempt to enter the castle before the princess was ready. Granted, that's nothing on the Great Runas' 10,000-year-long cooldown period between wish-granting stints. There's also the to run interaction that feels like ENA got a quest item in an old-school adventure game. Of course, this item comes in handy later for the shepherd, who then gives her another quest item, the blood sample, which helps her get past Maria and Gabo when she gets caught staring oddly at the Donkey Kong-type banana in the mannequin expanse. And while we're on Temptation Stairway, we need to talk about Ulysses. ENA talking with him takes me back to ye olde Castle Explorer days, where poofy-pantsed royals and alchemists would offer you help, or lock you up in the castle dungeon, which I suppose is preferable to Encarta Encyclopedia's never-ending mind maze knowledge quest through the castle rooms. Within this soundscape of ENA, you may hear some very familiar sounds as well. From the early days of RuneScape, these quirky noises produced with digital synthesizers are littered throughout ENA as a callback to the browser-based MMORPG that swept over the internet. From damage noises to magical spells, these sounds sort of became memes themselves. It's a very nice touch, and it's quite impossible to forget these iconic sounds if you grew up listening to them. And it takes pieces and parts of the best and weirdest 3D animation and pop culture and art before it, and turns it into this beautifully weird thing of its own. And that's the artistry in it, deciding what goes where and how to reinterpret it to share with the world. To use a visual language of the past to say something new to a new audience, and in doing so, becoming something greater than its individual odd pieces. I'm so excited to see where this goes, but if looking at the past inspirations for it are any indication, predicting where that will be is an exercise in chaotic futility, in the best way. But cheese and rice, there are so many hidden gems in this show that one video is not nearly enough to cover them all. What are some of your favorites that you've seen? Now, if you love indie productions, you're going to love Nebula, our creator-made platform where we're always making new, original shows and films, like Identities, where two strangers wake up in a mysterious white room with no way out or memory of their past. They must unravel their identity while navigating a system that controls virtually every aspect of their online reality. This new short film by Jesse Earl is only on Nebula right now. Not only that, but I have read close to 200 creepy and calming old fairy tales and ghost stories, and you can listen to all of these a bit late videos on Nebula without ads frightening you. You can also take these stories on the move with Nebula's app. Just download and save for later when you need a spooky sleep. It's like having a grimoire on the go. I also upload all of my videos to Nebula first, so you can see them before they are live on YouTube. You can use my link go.nebula.tv/abitfrank to check out all of this and more. And doing so directly supports me and other creators, and gets you 40% off annual plans, which works out to $2.50 per month. If you love Nebula, odds are your family and friends will too. And Nebula is now offering annual gift cards that you can gift to them. Use my link gift.nebula.tv/abitfrank to give a year of Nebula to a friend for just $30. Thank you so much for checking out Nebula and supporting independent creators. And thanks for hopping on this chaos train into the art before ENA. Subscribe so you won't miss the next video, Cooking in the Cauldron, right now. Stay spooky!